like a women's insulated metal water bottle. If I looked at the search term like women's pink rubber coated insulated water bottle, like that's my exact product. Now, the more specific you get to the product, the more specific the search is, the lower your search volume is going to be. So what we always look to do on product launches is like we try and find the intersection between good search volume and good to us is like maybe even a couple thousand, depending on the budget, that also have really good relevancy to the product. Because what you're trying to do is you want to get in front of your exact shoppers. So example would be insulated water bottle is going to be really expensive and not super specific to my product. Like it's kind of specific, but not really specific. I'm trying to say like, okay, where can I start getting super specific to my product, but it's going to have enough search volume that I can get the sales volume that I need. So I would focus more on that versus that I would looking at only search volume. A bit of a technical answer here is we don't quote move them, meaning we're not going to pause the existing keywords. We're simply going to launch them in another match type. Again, make sure to keep the bids lower. Amazon actually, if you read their recommendations, they recommend keeping bids lower on broad and phrase match, even lower than the exact match. When we would launch those is honestly really dependent on performance of the account and availability of the budget. So if you launch a keyword in exact phrase and broad, so you have 50 keywords, right? And you launch them in exact phrase and broad, you technically have, 150 keywords that you've launched. And the potential of broad and phrase to spend could be quite high. So again, you just want to make sure it makes sense. It seems super simplistic, but if you are in a phase where you're struggling to control total ACoS and ACoS, to fix those two numbers, it really means that you have to lower down your ad spend with ideally little to no impact of the total sales or the ad sales in the case of ACoS. If you introduce a whole, again, those 50 keywords in exact phrase and broad, and those you probably need to test and optimize the bids, etc., you're introducing a lot of additional ad spend into the account. So you do want to be aware of that and be careful with that. So that's kind of a benchmark that we use. But overall, I would say, I don't know if I would have like a certain time frame or a frame which I would hold back on. It really is dependent on the performance of the account. Another good question, which best bid strategy for phrase and exacts when you move? So again, we don't really move them. We would simply launch them in addition. We like to separate them by campaign as well. Kind of gives us a little bit more control over, say, budgets for things. Now, as far as the bidding strategy, we're a super huge fan of using mainly dynamic down only. If it is a keyword that we want to ensure that we get impressions for, so for our launch keywords, for our main keywords, for anything we're trying to be aggressive with, we prefer a fixed bidding strategy. It's still going to be the same. It's still going to be pick highly relevant keywords. One other tip is pick keywords that fit within the budget of the account that you're launching. So for instance, if I have a couple $100 a day budget versus $50 a day budget, those launches are actually going to look a little bit different because I can't afford that many clicks on a $50 a day budget. Or if I had, a couple $100 or $1,000, I have a lot more room for clicks. So actually, you want budgets to play into your launch strategy. The other thing that you want to keep in mind, do not expect profitability on launch. This is a huge one. There's a lot of people that try and pull back and knee-jerk for profitability right out of the gate. That is not going to happen. The reason why it's not going to happen, and I'll tell you the numbers behind the numbers, is that ACoS is just going to be high on your product launches, and that is a function of two things. One, the aggressive cost per click you have to set to be able to get visibility in the beginning, and two, how low your product conversion rate is going to be, especially if you're launching without reviews. Those two things, once you start to be able to bring your cost per clicks down because you gain momentum or you're optimizing your bids, and then two, once your product conversion rate starts to increase because you're getting those reviews, maybe you're optimizing your listing a little bit more because you've learned more about your target market, that is going to help bring down your target ACoS. So those things, again, conversion rates are going to be low, high cost per clicks. That's actually like the nuts and bolts of why your ads are not profitable, and it's almost unreasonable to expect profitability in the beginning. And that's actually why, if you've ever had a product where you're like, no matter what I do, I cannot seem to bring the ACoS down, I'm struggling here, it's a function of that your conversion rate is remaining low and it's not improving, and your cost per clicks are remaining high and you're not able to improve them due to the market or something else. So again, I would still say pick highly relevant keywords. Also make sure that whatever keywords that you have fits within your budget. Launch them. Aggressive, sponsored product, exact match, potentially sponsored brand video, exact match if you have the creative. Double down on that for a couple weeks and then start expanding from there. Hello, and welcome back to another Ask Junglr segment where I join you every single week on Thursday, same time, same place, to give you answers to your most pressing Amazon advertising questions. So today is going to be another great one. Last week we had a guest on the show, which was amazing. A lot of great discussions. You can always find the replays of all of these, which has, oh my goodness, so many answers to a lot of really, really great Amazon advertising questions. And part of, what is it, this last week, I want to say, time moves so quickly. I want to say it was just yesterday. It might have been 2 days ago, maybe about 48 hours, but Amazon has officially announced their days of Prime Day, which we always kind of know when it's coming. We know that it's coming in the summer. And then those of us with some connections at Amazon, they do give us some, although they're confidential, so we're not allowed to post about them, but it does mean that we know about some of their cutoff dates for shipping or Prime Day deals or other things like that. And a lot of times, you can kind of infer by looking at when inside of your ad account or inside of your account, Amazon says like, hey, this is the last time you have for deals, but it is official. So Prime Day this year, 2024, is going to be July 16th and 17th, which as an advertiser, I do appreciate the fact that it is on a weekday. It means I don't have to work weekends. Sometimes on like Black Fridays, prepping for Cyber Monday, you got to get up super early or you got to work a weekend. Prime Day, we never do, which is awesome. So we're definitely looking forward to that, definitely prepping for that. And some of your questions may revolve around that. I know a lot of our questions last week were revolving around Prime Day. So a really hot topic, fresh off the press. Definitely something to prep for because there is a very specific way you want to go about adjusting your Amazon advertising for the days of Prime Day. And it may not necessarily be what you think. So if we have time, we'll definitely get to that. Or if anyone has any questions, I might pull up that resource on this call. But so the format of this, if this is your first time, welcome in. We are so great to have you. Looks like we already have a question from Kim in the chat. And so that is the format here, right? Whatever place you are streaming on, although unfortunately we're having some issues with streaming on LinkedIn. So to my LinkedIn peeps, I apologize for any issues, but we will have a replay of this. We also put this out in podcast format as well, which you can find on our website, junglr.com/live is where we consolidate sort of a lot of our resources and things around this show. One of them including if you want to listen in on a podcast, if that's easier, we can get to listen to us in whatever format you find the most useful. So looks like we're joined by David. Welcome, David. And Kim, we're going to get right into the questions. We do also have a couple questions that we did not get to answer last week, so we'll make sure that we get answers for you this week as well. Kid said, hi, in revenue per click, is it right that it's generally generated by ad sales divided by clicks? Is there any reason to also calculate revenue per click to ad sales plus organic sales divided by clicks? That's a really interesting question, Kim. I'm probably going to do an explanation. So for anyone who doesn't know what RPC bidding is and what all this means, and then I'll get into answering your question and kind of like how it works. So revenue per click, which is a bid formula. It's essentially saying if I want to hit this target A cost, given my conversion rates, given how much I make at the end of the day, product, which is sale price, what would I have to spend per click to be able to hit this target A cost? It's pretty black and white. It's actually a really great formula. I have a really good friend in the space, Stephen Knock. We did a whole recording on this. He's trying to convince me that revenue per click is the way, it is the only way, it is the best bidding adjustment strategy out there. I am starting to see his side of the story a little bit, although I think there's more nuances when it comes to bid adjustments. There's a lot of nuances when it comes to bid adjustments. However, how you would calculate this. Super simple. Now, also, this can only be calculated for anything that does have sales associated with it. So you need to be able to calculate off the sales. But you basically take your sales, you multiply that by your target A cost. So in this case, if I had, say, like 30%, 20%, whatever it is, 20% of my total sales, and then you divide that by your number of clicks. And that's going to give you what does my bid need to be for me to hit this target A cost. Now, you had a very specific question on does it make sense to calculate it more granularly, factoring in your organic sales. So basically you're saying like, hey, I know I can factor it in based on my ad sales. Wouldn't it be amazing if I could add in my organic sales to this and factor in sort of like my total A cost into this equation to figure out, does it make sense for me to advertise on this because I'm making a lot of organic sales? In theory, doing it this way, 100%, that would be amazing. If we could get total A costs on a per keyword level, our bid algorithms, the way that we would view things, the way that we would adjust things would be amazing. I actually got an email from someone, which, by the way, if you're on our newsletter, you have the ability to hit reply and I will literally answer your Amazon ad questions. And someone was like, hey, is there a tool out there that can give me what my organic sales are per keyword? Because I would like to be able to make better bidding decisions. And in a way, if we don't have this, aren't we kind of taking a shot in the dark? The answer is yes. So unfortunately, there is no way to calculate and no way accurately. When Search Query Performance Report came out, I went down the rabbit hole of analyzing that and seeing if there was a way for like to infer like traffic and like what can we pull out of this. And I basically walked away with, while Search Query Performance Reports is a phenomenal data resource and one that we did not have available and has opened up so many more analysis and like granular dissection of what we're doing with the ads, there is no way to get your actual true sales on a per keyword level. You could, in theory, if you at least knew what the total sales were per keyword, you could technically, like, say, subtract the ad sales or do some sort of calculations. Unfortunately, because this is not available on a per keyword level, you will not be able to do that. Now, in theory, what maybe you could potentially do would be to zoom out and say do it on a per product level, because I would recommend doing it on a per listing level because there's some weird discrepancies that happen if you look at ad sales subtracted, total sales subtracted by ads to get organic on a per SKU or child ASIN level if it's a variation listing. You could in theory say what would my average bid have to be if I factored in my organic as well, if you want to, just for like kind of like looking at it from that perspective. Maybe you could do that. So that would be taking your ad sales or just taking the total sales and then doing that equation and then factoring like what that bid would look like. But unfortunately, that's not going to give you as granular a level as you need. That was a very, very long way to say I would just stick with the original revenue per click model because you're missing a crucial data point in that equation. But it's a really good question, Kim, and honestly one that a lot of Amazon advertisers have puzzled over for a very long time. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get that full answer. It's not within Amazon's best interest to fully release their full traffic data to us. Cool. David has a question. Hey, Elizabeth, I find a lot of success with phrase and broad match in certain campaigns. Do you have any less value to improve organic rank than exact match? No, they don't actually. They do have just as big of an impact as exact match. And it's honestly a really good question, David. I appreciate you asking it because at the end of the day, really what matters is what sales are we driving, what are the conversion rates of those sales, and from a business perspective, how sustainable is the performance of that keyword. Meaning like, what is my ACoS? Can I afford to continuously, spend this ACoS? Or if it's say like over 100%, maybe I can't afford this long term, right? So that's kind of the thing that we're looking at. But which match type it's being triggered from, Amazon doesn't really care. It's, are you making the orders and are you making them consistency and what is the performance of that? Now, I will caution you against this though. The broader the targeting type, especially in broad match these days, the less control you will have over where you're going to specifically direct your ad spend. So an example would be if you had a broad match keyword that's absolutely crushing it on one of your main terms, and you say, okay, I want to increase the bid for this keyword, right? You are essentially increasing the bid, i.e. what you are willing to pay for all of the potential search terms that could be triggered through that keyword, which, as you can imagine, is quite a lot. So instead of me saying, I'm willing to pay more here, which is what you can do with exact match, you're saying, I'm willing to pay all of these places more. And so the potential for that, just significantly increase your ad spend. And, if Amazon all of a sudden stops targeting that particular search term in, through that match type for whatever reason, doesn't typically happen, but it can happen. Then you're kind of left out to dry there. So ad spend control is really the primary reason that most people focus, ourselves included, focus in on exact match for ranking purposes. It's about the levels of control you can have, not necessarily that exact match is going to have a better chance of ranking if you're making, say, the same sales volume through one or the other. That is a good question. I appreciate it. Umar, hello and welcome back. How are you doing? I am doing well. Thank you for asking. Supposedly, if you have a new sweets brand with 0 ranking, bad listing optimization, but getting sales on Amazon suggested terms, how do you start? Please explain in detail if possible. So you say you're getting sales on Amazon suggested terms. It sounds like you've already started. And feel free to put some follow-up stuff in the chat if you want. If you want it, if you have a more like specific question or get more context. But it sounds like you're already getting sales from somewhere. Whenever I have data to build off of, that's what I'm prioritizing 100%. So if you're getting sales on suggested terms, great. Right? A lot of people are going to say like, oh, focus in on the highest, most relevancy keywords. Amazon suggested terms are not, they're not as targeted as they typically are. That's true because that's proven out in terms of like general best practices. However, if I have something that is absolutely working, even if it flies in the face of what I understand is like best practices, then in that case, I'm going to go with what I know is working. Oh, Omar looks like he had a follow-up on it. I'm not indexed on keywords, but it's really hard to rank in the top 10 to get organic sales. Yeah, so I would just focus on where can you rank. Search Query Performance Report is going to be a really great way to evaluate this. It looks like you're watching on YouTube. I do have a channel that talks about tools to help you evaluate. I think it's called like Spy on Your Competitors or something. It goes through how do you use Search Query Performance Report to evaluate where you're getting better conversions than the average in your competition. I would look at those search terms and see where do I have a better chance of ranking. And in those cases, wherever you have the best chance to get the best bang for your buck, which may not be on the hard to rank top keywords. If the product is not converting enough to make it worthy to rank there, it will not rank there. Amazon doesn't care how much money you throw at it. They're interested in having a good shopper experience. So I would just focus on where are shoppers having the good experience. How do I just put resources into those things? And then definitely if you're telling me that the listing is bad, work on the listing. Now, you may be somebody who's not in charge of that, maybe brand manager, maybe you've just been tasked with the Amazon advertising. In those cases, when we have a client that is, say, reluctant to make changes to the listing for whatever reason, I would show them the cold hard data. So you want to look at brand metrics and you want to look at search query performance report, highlight and screenshot. This is what you want to do. This is where we're falling behind in the competition. This is what's going to fix it, listing optimization, and then just say, hey, here's the resources that I've gathered so you don't have to do this analysis. Here are my recommendations based off these resources. These are the expectations given what I know and what I see in the data, and then, then leave them to make their decisions.
And Elizabeth, while we were waiting on questions, if you guys like what you hear, give us a thumbs up on your social platforms. If you're on LinkedIn, unfortunately, you cannot give thumbs up or hearts or laughing face emojis or light bulbs today. Not our fault, guys. But we promise that we'll bring those reviews and little breakdowns on LinkedIn once we can. So blame LinkedIn, write to your LinkedIn representative today and blame them. But we do have questions from last week. I'm going to go ahead and throw them up while we are waiting on other people to submit them on YouTube or other platforms as well. Question, cool. How can you scale an account when the organic sales have multiplied by 5x already? Good question.
Oh, very good question. Which, first off, congrats to this advertiser for being able to 5x the account,
That's
right?
What it said.
Amazing.
That's what the person said, yes.
It is amazing. Great. So it's like, what's the next level? So I'm going to say this again, not knowing context of the catalog, but my question would be, you're not necessarily looking at the account as a whole as to like, where do I have the potential to scale the account? You're looking at which products have the potential to scale. So that's the analysis that I would be doing. I would say, you're always going to have your top sellers and then you're going to have the rest of the sellers and bonus points. So if you've already done the 5x, you might also start thinking in terms of profits as well. Because it's one thing to scale and achieve greater sales volume. It's another thing to scale the right products that are actually the profit drivers. So sometimes you may have say like, well, I've kind of reached the peak in terms of what I can do in, sales volume and market share. Because every product will at some point reach sort of like an equilibrium. But you might also start thinking in terms of profits as to where can I get the most profit. So I would say look in terms of products. Now, if you want a formula for saying, how do I find that? My favorite equations to do are to look at marry your business reports with your advertising reports, and then look at what products are driving the highest percentage of total sales. So percentages of total for sales, percentages of total for ad spend. Where is my sales coming from? Where is my ad budget going to? Are those two things in alignment? Am I overspending on products? Am I underspending on products? And then what is the performance? Again, we're strictly speaking from an ad spend perspective, but like, so if I have a product that's driving great sales, I'm not investing ad budget, and my total A cost is below my averages, so I'm highly profitable, that's a great product to scale. I'm like, I have potential here. Great sales. I have majority of them are organic. There's probably places I can dig in. And then you dig into that ad strategy. Do I have product targeting? Have I conquered sponsored brand ads yet? Do I have display ad? Like, what's the next level for ads for this product? So I would think of it, you want to go down the list, product identification, then look at ad structure within that product, push it up.
We had some clarification too, Elizabeth, so from earlier as well. Just going back to Amir's.
Yeah, so Amara, I mean, you said I have optimized it to a level of 40% of organic sales. This is going back off of the product you're starting to strictly rank. Now the position of like 15 to 30 placement. I'm assuming that's placement on keywords. Now, what can we do to get to the top 5 or eventually the top 1? Throw ad budget behind those keywords, really. As much as you're going to want like a secret sauce, ultimate way of pushing for this, it's really going to be digging in, and your goal is to accelerate sales on those keywords, really. And you also can accelerate sales around those keywords. So you also, if you haven't already done it, you can look into product targeting for some of the more top ranked products on that, especially product targeting on other products that you know you can convert well on. That can actually help with ranking and sort of positive signals as well. So just, again, I would just double, triple down, where all can I generate sales on and around this search page? And then just hammer it hard. David has another question. Awesome. Related question. I have a product that sells 500 units per day. Is it even worth running PPC with a budget of $15 to $40 per day if it's only adds 10 to 12 sales? Should I target keywords we don't rank on? Yes, I would target keywords you don't rank on. And yeah, if you only wanted a limited budget, I would honestly run it and see, do I see an increase in my total sales? Yes or no? Do I see an increase? So here's a great thing. Here's a thought process for you. Roughly ish, according to some people I've talked to who used to work in Amazon, about a third of sales typically happen on product pages, roughly speaking. You know, it's maybe up or down, and of course it's dependent on catalog. Outside of advertising, there's pretty much no visibility you get on product pages outside of advertising. And product page placements actually do add to ranking and indexing. Not as much as keyword targeting, but they do add to it. So in that case, that might be worth testing. Now, a very easy low lift way to test that is a low bid auto campaign. You know, run that, see if you can correlate the lift in the total sales. So I would say, yes, it might be worth running. The question you want to ask yourself is, obviously, if you're running advertising on this, then you're going to be getting less profits because, you know, some of the profits are going into the ad budget. So if I do run ads for this product, what does that do to my profits? What does it look like? And have my sales increased enough to make it worth it? And so I would start with a very limited budget. If you're already crushing it in terms of sales, I would actually run the whole old school strategy, which is like try lower auto campaigns, see what works, try and move it to exact match. The reason why that strategy, it's not that it's a bad strategy. It's it takes a lot of time, and typically speaking, there's a little bit more ad waste associated with that. And so it's not great for like if you want to like go out, get the product out there, get it in front of those specific shoppers. But the thing is, you're already making great sales. Your product's already well indexed, and you already like have great placements. So you already, the algorithm fully understands the product and knows where to put you. So I would try low cost strategies, autos, see what works, move up from there. Again, you're going to get placement on product pages. You're going to get other placements you wouldn't typically get if you're just going gangbusters on like ranking strategies. And I would slowly work my recommendation, again, if this were my product, I would slowly work up from there. Now you can go super aggressive, like you're saying, trying to rank on all the keywords that you're not already ranked on. That strategy is going to be much more aggressive. It's going to require more ad spend. And so you may or may not be happy with what that looks like in terms of profits. So there's kind of like two ways to slice and dice it. I would say if you have the profitability to test it. And then just kind of evaluate it. I would evaluate it more from a business perspective than I must do this according to quote best ad strategy purposes. Really, I mean, what makes sense for my business? Can I sustain this? Do I get better profits without it? And am I happy with the sales without it? Great. Then I can pull back and I can stop running ads.
Great answer. Great questions. Everyone keep submitting those below in the comment section. We might have just got one more. Oh, thanks, Elizabeth. There he is. Everyone's thankful today. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome. No, everybody's awesome.
This community rocks. Everyone's doing great. Going ahead to our next question. If you want to rank on a specific keyword and you have put in the keyword in title bullets, what would be your take on rank if it were a search volume of 4,000 in the UK with good competition? This was from last week, so this person may not be live with us today, but this is an interesting insight.
No, it is a really good question. The other thing is I would put it in your back end, what is the back end keywords as well. Also in the title. I was talking with Brian Johnson, who's actually really cool. He's super OG in the space. I've talked to some people. I'm like, oh, you're Brian Johnson. They're like, oh, who's that? I'm like, you don't know who Brian Johnson is? Oh my goodness. He was like the guy who I think pioneered a lot of the Amazon ad strategies we still use today. But he's gone really deep in the weeds with big data and doing some really, really interesting stuff with like AI analytics. Umar, so is your question. Okay, awesome. Great. You're here. So if you have any follow-up questions. Yeah, so I would make sure it's in the back end because there is some indication, if I'm remembering him correctly, that back end keywords can also lead to Amazon advertising indexation and how they put the product. So just to make sure like it's indexed well for that. And then I would still go after exact match single keyword campaigns for this. Again, that's more about budget control than that is about like that being the best match type. Because it's not like you can't trigger it through other match types. You want to have that specific budget control. And then you just want to, again, you want to pump up that volume in terms of order velocity, and you really want to make sure that you have good conversion rates for that keyword. And so that would be super helpful. The other thing that you can do is, again, target, say, products or other sort of like adjacent. Now, those are going to have not as much impact on your overall rankings, but there is evidence that if you target, sort of like adjacent keywords, again, we've seen this work really well with, say, product targeting of some of the top competitors. So like, say they search this and they're kind of clicking around, they see your product on other product pages as well. And we found that to be quite effective. And then a 4,000 search volume keywords, not a crazy amount to rank on. It's not too bad. We've seen ones where, it's like upwards of like 50,000 search volume, 100,000 search volume. Those ones get really crazy, really fast, really competitive. So I think you'll do well.
I'm glad we figured out who it was, so we're getting the answers to the right people. So and I apologize. I think we had one on YouTube that slipped through our cracks, Elizabeth. I think we have a part 1 and part 2. I'm not sure if we did we do the French brand with watches?
We did not.
I apologize for that.
Oh,
so,
cool.
Sorry about that. There's a part 1 and part 2. So we'll start with part 1.
All right, we're getting mathematical here. Let's see how good I can do math on the fly. I am in the watches space, French brands. Cool. So like, yeah, we're familiar with like jewelry, that kind of thing, which FYI, typically speaking, has lower conversion rates on average. A lot of people will say like, oh, 10% on average which is true, like that's the strict average, but then you also have category averages, which is why I love brand metrics inside of the ad console will give you category averages, like benchmarks. Super helpful. So FYI, like clothing, averages are in the single digits, especially like jewelry, anything that people get super, super specific about the style of it, watches included. You're going to see that conversion rates are going to be lower. So you have 1 to 2 reviews on 6 ASINs, FBM, which may also add into lower conversion rates, just depends. Unable to imply any kind of sales. Average cost per click is $125. Yep, so you have a high price point product, which is also, so it sounds to me like your issue is probably going to be the low conversion rates. But let's look at the part 2. Competition is strong. Also started on a new FBM, and Amazon showing shipment times is 30 to 40 days. Hurt sales anymore. Yep. So your name of your game is increase your conversion rates in any way that you can. That is my guess. That's what you're struggling with. Is you just, first off, if I'm paying over $100 for something, especially nearing $1,000, people want to know that the product is not crap. I know it sounds like you really care about your product. I think it sounds like you put effort into your product. A lot of these ones, product is phenomenal. But if somebody is investing that much money, first off, your listing needs to be on point. Every single potential question that your shopper has must be answered. Do they know what kind of material it is specifically? right? If it's that high price point, maybe you have some kind of coding on there. Like I'll buy stuff that's like, this is getting kind of knee deep into jewelry, but like you can have coated, but you can also have like vermeil coated, which means you have like a thicker layer of gold. But like if I'm spending that much, I want to know that. I want to know why I'm paying $800 for a watch, right? And I know that this is not like super designer watches. We're not getting into like, the thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. But for the average Amazon shopper, they have to have a reason to purchase that much. So, I mean, it could be that you have unique designs. There's something super specific to the product. For me, like there have been items where it has such a unique design element that I don't care. I just want it. I know there's like no reviews and like the listing doesn't really, but like that image, like I want that so bad, right? It's unlike anything else in the market. So I might go ahead and purchase it. So like try and get your minds in like the thought processes of your shopper. And specifically with images are going to be huge here. Make sure that your images will answer all of the questions. All shopper questions should be answered in your images. So if there's a dimension question, right? Yes, the average conversion rate is a 2.3. Honestly, at that price point and everything else you told me about the product, I was actually expecting lower. I was expecting less than a 1%. So honestly, that speaks to you probably have a decent product. I would work on see if you can get Amazon to fix the ship times. That's something that's outside my area of expertise, but I know that will significantly help. And then, yeah, probably ship times are really going to be helpful.
I would also explore FBA as a potential money opportunity too. So that conversion rate might even go up higher because Amazon will organically, it will fund product listings for US market. Again, if the product is already in their warehouses, so organically your conversions in your listing will go higher already. If it's located in the United States and you're selling from France, I understand the logistics. If you're shipping there for 5 to 6 days, it looks like you're doing air freight to get it into the consumer for last mile, but explore that option for that potential lift for organic sales. And also get the Prime badge. That's also a big key that people naturally filter. It's filtered off automatically, but a lot of people go in and filter it on. So that's another option as well.
Oh, I'm just reading it now. I'm rereading this. I misread it. He said the average category conversion rate is 2.3. Yeah. So I would say, how do you stack up against that? Are you close to the 2.3? And if you're not, that's where you're struggling to get sales. So your goal is 2.3. Yeah, category averages is probably going to be really low, which is normal. It means you're going to get a lot of people clicking around. You just need to convert some of those clicks. Mara with more great questions. I have more questions. Good. We have hopefully more answers for you. Second product, kitchen only. I have 3 exact keywords with ranking on 1 to 3 of these keywords. I'm spending £250 a month with 15% ads versus 85 to 90% organic sales. Awesome. Sounds like you have great numbers. I sometimes have the best seller or second in the category. What can I do to improve or blast more sales onto it? So when you said you're ranking on 1 to 3 of those keywords, I assume you're doing more advertising than this. Honestly, with only 15% of ads these days, typically a lot of people are driving almost about 50% of their total sales through advertising. So actually the product sounds like I would say off the bat, congratulations. Sounds like you have a super healthy product, which is awesome. The other thing I would say is, so you said sometimes you have the best seller. I would actually look at, so when you get the best seller, typically speaking, like if you go and you analyze the sales, you will see a very marked increase in the sales. So I would take a look at, most likely it's going to be a case of increasing ad spend. The good news is when we're talking about the bestseller badge, you're not necessarily talking about must rank on said specific keyword. The goal or what you need to do to achieve in a bestseller badge is simply to sell more in general. And actually, fun fact here, and this is getting totally in the weeds, but comes off a really interesting conversation I had with Brian Johnson, is they actually evaluated it, and Amazon not only calculates who has the highest amount of sales, but who has the highest amount of sales for keywords that are related to that category. So you want to go after like category specific keywords, if at all possible, but just like generally your goal is to increase sales here. And then what I would evaluate, again, this is from a business perspective, is when you increase the sales, when you push for that growth, my guess is probably profitability is lower. So does the increase in sales that you make from the bestseller badge offset what you have to spend to be able to get there? A lot of times for a lot of sellers, it's yes. Yeah, so other sellers in the Chinese with half of your price and running deals is the best. Okay, so the deals are getting you there. So my question would be, when you run those deals, do you get enough profits to make up for whatever sort of like losses you're incurring when you run a deal? Yes or no. So I would treat this from a business decision. I would say like there's two routes here. One, just kind of continuously try and push for that sales growth. It's harder when you have Chinese sellers. So sometimes like product targeting, there's only so much that's possible. You might just try like blast out. So what we found is that if the goal is simply to increase sales, oftentimes you can push things like autos and broad matches and other ones, which again are not the best for ranking purposes, but they can sometimes be the best for like just say volumes of sales. So you might kind of try that in general. And then I would either say be happy with what I have, because I mean, from the outside looking in, what you told me is like 15% is ads. You have a healthy amount of organic and everything. You might just be happy with number 2 because you're like, hey, this is a cash cow and I want to continue to milk this. Or you could say, I end up getting more cash flow at the end of the day with the bestseller, even though I have to give up some on profits, and then just like see which one of those is true. But I would just try push for volumes of sales if anywhere possible that I know works. So if I have a campaign, even if it's not quote my ranking campaign, that I know is driving a lot of sales for me at a grade A cost, I'm just going to keep hitting that button until it doesn't make sense anymore. We've done that a couple times for brands and been able to get bestsellers off of that. So yeah, his sales are 700, mine is 500. The good news is as long as you stick to like say category specific things, you actually can outpace him. But it really is just dependent on where his sales are coming from.
All right. I think that is the questions we have right now. Again, everyone, if you have questions, don't be shy. Go ahead and ask them. We're a big community of helping out here. So going to pull up from questions from last week. Thoughts on, here you go. Question, your thoughts on catch-all campaigns, Elizabeth, when running full house of campaigns simultaneously, i.e. broad, phrase, exact, auto, or full house. Is there a benefit to run catch-all then? I like that phrase, full house campaigns.
Yeah. There is always going to be a benefit to running a catch-all campaign, always. If there's not a catch-all campaign set up in a new account that we get, we will typically always set it up. And for those of you who don't know what a catch-all campaign it is a campaign that almost feels like it's printing money. It's super simple to set up. It is one that is kind of infuriating because I hate that it works because it goes against every quote best practice in the book, but I just know that it works. So all you're going to do is you're going to take an auto campaign. You're going to stick all of your entire catalog, all of your products into that auto campaign. You're going to put it at a low bid. Low bid typically for most accounts is somewhere between 15 and 30 cents. Of course, if your average cost per click is 30 cents, you want to go even lower than that, maybe 10, 5, something like that. If you're in supplements, your average cost per click is upwards of like $3. Quote low for you might be 75 cents. So low is somewhat relative here. You want to use either down only or dynamic up and down. It kind of depends on what your cost per click is. Shove all your products in there and leave it alone. And don't increase the bids. because you're going to see like great ACOS and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I want to increase the bids because this is performing so well. And then you're going to keep increasing, and then it's not going to be the low bid strategy that you had before. Things can get out of control. So I would just say, yes, it is a phenomenal campaign. Run it. Another great one that we've been testing out is if you have a bunch of products that you are not currently advertising. Because what you will find in catch-all campaigns is that a lot of times your top selling products will kind of be the ones to pop off in those campaigns. What we've actually started doing is any products that are not being advertised, and you can actually find this out easily in your ad account. It's amazing. I love this update. You can go into your ad console. If you go to the product tab, which is new, you can select, they will actually filter for you all of the products that you're not currently advertising. We've actually been taking all of these, putting them into quote this catch-all campaign. So it's like a selective catch-all, and those have been performing phenomenally for us. So short answer, yes, run it. Long answer, that's how you do it. Set it up.
There it is. All right. Oh, we have a thank you again. Mayor, thank you so much. Helps a lot test our knowledge and learn more things while talking to you, genius.
Well, you flatter me. You make me feel good. I've just been doing this.
You guys
for
are
a
doing the
hot
work.
minute.
You guys are doing the work
Yeah.
too. So we're just here to help with pointing people in the right direction as well. Let's go with our next one. I think this is a part of the sweets category that was from last week as well. But this is interesting. I wanted to bring up. Have you tried to day part a sweets category, and what are your best results in terms of hours performing well? Late night.
Yeah.
That's my guess. When people are shopping and they're hungry.
Yeah, so I would just go through and I would evaluate the data, because every single product is going to be somewhat different. I don't know if I have an answer for you in that specific category. If you have an analytics tool that allows you to pull data as to like when you're selling the best or when things perform the best, I would pull that. But you can pull, if you pull a campaign report, now it's only for sponsored products. Pull a sponsored product campaign report, you can actually see an option to select hourly data. And if you do that, then you can then create a pivot table off of that and aggregate when you are seeing the best performance in terms of conversion rates or when the most clicks are happening and which hour of the day. And that report will actually tell you for your specific account what are the best hours and when do you perform best. And so that would be my answer. The report is available inside your ad console for free. You don't need an analytics tool. You just need to know how to create a quick pivot table off of hours of the day, and you'll be off to the races.
Awesome. And then one other question that we had from last week. This is the last one from last week. So if you have your questions for this week, feel free to put them in the comment section below. What will be your bid for a keyword that was funneled from auto to phrase? Would it be the same as the CPC or the auto, or a bit higher?
It would be, I will couch this. It will be slightly higher in general, depending on the ACOS performance of that keyword. So for example, like if my target ACOS was 35%, right? And I found a keyword that I'm like, I'm making really good orders, but it's like at a 50% ACOS. Maybe I don't necessarily want to increase that bid, right? Because in general, so general practice, it is going to be slightly higher. Actually, I don't always agree with Amazon's recommendations. However, I do kind of agree with this one. If you go through any of the like their learning consoles or you read any of their documentation, they do recommend setting higher bids for, say, exact match, slightly lower for phrase match, and then lower for broads or autos or something. We also follow similar practice. So in that case, if we're taking it from an auto, we're moving it up, in terms of keyword, then we would set a higher bid. Caveat there, if we've already validated this is something we want to test, but ACOS has been really high, we don't necessarily want to increase that, then in that case, we'll probably just start it at either at the cost per click, potentially even slightly lower than that, depending on what it is we're trying to achieve with this keyword.
All right, Elizabeth, I think that's all the questions I've gotten in our live chat, but also from last week. I know we had teased a little bit earlier about, hey, the announcement from last week to this week. A lot of people perked up when they saw Prime Day Maybe we go
Yes.
back and maybe some quick tips, and if people have questions about Prime Day in the last couple of minutes that we have for today's event, unless there are other questions that come in. Oh, perfect. All right, we're going to hold off on Prime Day until then. We have one more question that actually came in. There we go.
How do we do keyword research for having branded keywords for the supplement category? Great question. So I would just do your typical keyword research, focus in on an exact match. Ryan, I don't know if we have that link to the product launch free mini course that we have, but there actually is a keyword research sheet in there, which is going to help you out immensely, totally free to you. We will pull that up and get that for you. But yeah, so I would focus on keywords that are highly relevant to the product, ones that fit. So highly relevant, I actually go through and like screen share and walk you through, this is how I think of relevancy and this is how I search it. And when I have questions, like it's all in there. It's the most in-depth publicly, other than like me personally coaching my team, it's the most in-depth training I've put out on product launches. But I would curate that keyword list. That is, again, when I say specific, like you said, it's a supplement product. So is it a gummy supplement? Is it a hair supplement? Is it a hair gummy supplement? Like, see how I'm getting more and more specific to the product? It's a hair gummy supplement with a high amount of biotin to it, right? You can see I'm like moving down into like hyper specific to the product. So you're essentially looking for, where can I have good search volume? Because the more hyper specific you get to the product, typically speaking, the lower the search volume is going to be. So you're looking at, where can I still get a lot of traffic, but they're looking for my specific product. And then if you're looking, you're saying it has branded keywords, I would separate the branded and the non-branded. Yep. So here we have Junglr PPC mini course. So it's a very hyper specific product launch course, 2 free resources in there. One of them is forecasting. And I talk a lot about forecasting, how to shape your keyword list, how to shape it for your business. What we find is that the most crucial element most Amazon strategies are missing these days is things that are curated for your business and a business-centric ad strategy. And so we talk about how to make a business-centric product launch in that course. So highly recommend going and checking that out. Totally free. You can get access today. And that's going to go way more in depth with screen shares and all of that.
Comments in the link below, or the link is in the comment section below.
Grab that link. And yeah, if you have any follow-up questions, but I would just say do your typical keyword research, but then just segment branded. Make sure you're not mixing them. That's just typically good practice.
And another one, first-time caller.
Hi, hello. First time watching. I'm a beginner, no knowledge at all. Any advice for me where to start? I want to learn, please. Thank you so much. Great question. Where to start? Well, show up, ask questions. So I would
We're live
say
every Thursday at noon.
Yes, we are live every Thursday, every single Thursday. I literally still did a live, even though it was my wedding anniversary, my husband's birthday. So I am here for you every single week, rain or shine, unless some catastrophic event happens. I don't see that changing. And so this is going to be a really great resource. Another thing is I would recommend going into Amazon's Learning Console. Really? I would go straight to the source. Now, you will hear me on occasion and other people saying like, Amazon doesn't know what they're doing and the reps don't know what they're doing and like this is not. But like, honestly, they have put a lot of work and documentation into their resources. And I honestly think if you want a crash course beginner starting, there we go, Amazon Learning Console, they have free trainings you can take. Completely free, walks you through all the elements. I would start there. I would consume all of that learning and all of that training. You could start today. They're pretty quick. They're pretty easy. They segment them really well. It walks you through it systematically. If you wanted to focus in a place to start, typically speaking, no matter how big the brand is, 75 to 80% of all of the ad spend is going to be on sponsored products. So if you are going to focus in on a certain ad type to get really good at, because it's going to seem super confusing, there's sponsored brands and display, and now they have TV ads, and then they have like, It's going to get, so focus on sponsored product ads, go through the learning console, start there. You want to start to get an understanding of the ecosystem, like where things go, what does what happens when a bid goes up or down, like all of those kind of things. And then if you can start seeing the advertising through the lens of how does this interact with the shopper. At the end of the day, what we're doing is we're putting up an ad. We're telling Amazon, I'm willing to pay X for somebody who clicks on it. You get that click. You get however many clicks it takes you to get a sale. You get a sale. And that's the very streamlined dynamic from the position of the shopper. It's just knowing how much to pay, when, where should I be? What does this look like? What's best practices? Those are the little nuts and bolts, but the learning console is going to get you really, really far in that journey. It's going to be a great start.
All right. That looks like all the questions for now. Again, we have about 10 minutes left. Otherwise, you're going to just hear us talk about what's important. And obviously, what we think is important right now, too. We want to make sure we add to it, too. Elizabeth, Prime Day, again, mentioned last week or earlier this week. We didn't touch much on it the last couple of weeks. What are some of the things that we want to, obviously, within about a month or so, less than a month from now? Wasn't a big secret, but when it was announced, people flipped out. So if people haven't been preparing or they have been preparing, what do we need to learn and what do we need to do?
Yep. Best thing to understand is that the days of Prime Day are about capitalizing on all of the data that you've accumulated in your account and all of the things that you can be confident work. If I had to sum up Prime Day strategy into a nutshell, it would be that. And so that's the good news for you. You don't need to have like some kind of crazy Prime Day specific strategy in terms of campaigns. There is strategy when it comes to like how you make the optimizations, where do you optimize, what do you optimize for. But it would be the things you want to be doing now. Understanding which products you want to focus on in terms of where do you think the majority of your ad budget is going to be best spent. So are there certain products you're running deals on that you can anticipate a better conversion rate? Are there certain products you make more profit on? Are there certain products you're going with, again, your data mining right now for what works? I want to know what works. I want to know what works in terms of products. I want to know what works in terms of the ad structure. So what keywords work best, what types of targeting work best, all of the above I'm doing. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of analysis. It's a lot of digging through reports. It's a lot of information mining. So it will take you time, but the good news is you have time and it's something that can be done in spurts. So that's what we're doing right now. And then the second thing that we're focused on, we're knowing what we're going to maximize days of. And the second thing that we're doing is we are pruning our ad account. Pruning it, meaning what is all the stuff that's not working that I'm spending money on? Because the thing with Prime Day, it is a traffic accelerator. So when you have a whole bunch more traffic, that means you have a whole bunch more clicks. So that thing that only got a couple clicks, they haven't, you're like, I don't know if it really works. It's kind of expensive. You're going to get a lot more clicks on that on Prime Day. So the potential for wasted ad spend, like potential for sales and accelerated performance, is through the roof, but also the potential for wasted ad spend is also through the roof. So basically what we're doing pre-Prime Day right now, anything you want to test, get it up now. If you're like, I've been meaning to put up a video ad and I've been meaning to see if this works, get it up today, like today. You want to have that test validation. You want to have at least a couple weeks of data, and you want to have that test finalized at least a week, that week before Prime Day. 100%. I would not want to be testing up to the nth hour, because the problem is the data not data, but the consumer behavior is going to be abnormal pre, during, and post Prime Day, that like short window. So we have 2 days of Prime Day. We have about 3 days before and roughly 2 to 3 days after. So that means you have about, a little over a week, about a week of like a very abnormal consumer behavior, which means it doesn't make for good testing. because you want to see like consistency. Can I validate this? So like if you want to do tests, test things now. If there's those keywords you've been meaning to try, if there's that product targeting campaign you've been meaning to get up, if you've been meaning to test sponsor display it, like get it up today, start validating those tests. And then during Prime Day, you can make much better decisions.
And is it correct, Elizabeth, that you'll see lower conversions leading up to Prime Day? You're going to see higher clicks though, and then you'll see higher and almost flip-flopped once Prime Day hits. So you'll see an abnormally high conversion around Prime Day. The reason, everyone, is because people are shopping before they purchase. So be wary that they're just going to put it in their cart, but understand that behavior. Anything else that people are looking for? Is there lookalike audiences that they can make campaigns for based on last year, or is that just video and DSP, or what is the
DSP is going to be much more potent in terms of retargeting. You can set up sponsor display retargeting campaigns, which do work well. So again, if you want to get those tests, get them up. I will give you a pro tip here. During the days of Prime Day, if you're capitalizing on stuff, we focus on increasing budgets more than we focus on increasing bids. That shift for us happened 3 or 4 years ago, I think, when we noticed that we don't necessarily get better performance if we like exponentially increase our bids. And in a general practice, right, you're always going to have like those 1 or 2 targets you need to remain aggressive on. But generally speaking, we've gotten much more bang for our buck, just making sure that our budgets are in line and increasing those versus like, I would not. And I've heard some people doing this. Performance is not great. Like Prime Day is coming. I must increase everything. So you just like 2x like all bids across the board. Like that's a recipe for massive amounts of wasted ad spend. And be super strategic, focus on budgets more than bids.
Good point. And do we have a resource we can share with people on working with big days like Prime Day, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, things like that?
We do have a resource, and we are working on getting a way to get it to you. So it's fully developed. We have a doc that basically, so we break it down in a checklist. We have before, during, and after. Pro tip, like the most amount of work actually happens before, which is great. You can get it on it right now. And then we have do's and we have don'ts. Some of them have more don'ts. Don'ts are like a couple, but there's things like it doesn't actually make sense to be like, you know, best deal for Prime Day, like having keywords that like target Prime Day. We've never actually found that works. So you don't have to do that. Again, like don't exponentially increase everything. Be very careful about increasing bids on broader targeting types, autos, broad match, all of that actually can go crazy and waste a bunch of ad spend. So there's quite a few don'ts and then a whole lot of do's in there that, again, this is something, a resource we kind of just put together for our team. And we're working on getting you guys access. So if you know me on any socials or you have a comment anywhere, feel free to message me and I'll make sure I get that to you.
Or comment PPC guide for Prime Day, and then we'll make sure.
That's right. We'll go through the comments.
Yep, in the comments, just say PPC Prime Day guide, and we'll try to get that over to you as well. You have to reach out. You have to put your email in there. It's okay. We won't spam you, just with more tips and educational guides as well. But I think that's it for today. I don't think we have any more comments. We just have a lot of thank yous, which we appreciate as well. So I'm just back here pushing buttons, but thank you, Elizabeth, for all your knowledge sharing with people. If there's anything else, where can people learn and learn more, or how they get in touch with you and the Junglr team as well, if they have more questions about potentially, working with you or working with the team there?
No, definitely the best place is going to be the website, which, fun fact, you still got to talk to me. So we're not so big that I'm not still taking those calls, because honestly, I just love talking to sellers. I like finding out about, you guys always give a lot of context in these questions. So the best place is going to be the website, junglr.com. Reach out, book a call. We'll get you set up. We'll talk about your business, what it is that you need to achieve your goals, and how can we work backwards from there in terms of ad strategy.
Awesome. Junglr.com, get your free audit. It's with Elizabeth, so it's going to be good stuff. So other than that, I think that's it for the day. Everyone, if you have questions, again, noon Eastern, every single Thursday, rain or shine, anniversaries, birthdays or not, we're going to be here.
Yep.
So thanks a lot, Elizabeth, and everyone else for showing up. If you have questions, feel free to tune in or submit those questions in the comments below. Otherwise, we'll catch you guys next time. Take care.
Awesome. And that wraps up this episode of the Ask Junglr Amazon Advertising Podcast. I hope you found these insights and strategies helpful in your Amazon PPC journey. Remember, if you have a burning Amazon ad question that you'd like answers to, head over to junglr.com/live to join our next live Q&A session. Until next time, keep optimizing those ads and stay hungry.